Hi, welcome to the Leadership with Sonia podcast. Everything leadership, life and learning, plus outstanding interviews with great leaders and humans across the globe. Let's get listening and learning.
Hi everybody, it's Sonia McDonald here and you are live and you're listening to Leadership with Sonia podcast and live today with some incredible leaders. You know, I love to interview incredible leaders, and there was supposed to be someone else on this incredible live and podcast, but unfortunately he couldn't join us, and he is the CEO of 8 Squad. But I have got the amazing, remarkable, just as amazing and remarkable, if not more amazing and remarkable, because I have a soft spot for CPOs, Chief People Officers, because I used to be one, and I know how amazing CPOs are. And this person and leader that I'm interviewing today is incredible. Germaine, he is the CPO of 8 Squad. You can read his bio in the blurb as part of this podcast and live, and he's got amazing experience. And we were talking offline about our Outstanding Leadership Awards because they are finalists in our 2024 Outstanding Leadership Award for Courageous Organisation and also Women in STEM. And we were talking about his philosophy and how he sees leadership and how he's so dedicated to leadership, but also he's also got a new hat on as a leader, as a new dad of a beautiful daughter. He was showing me a picture of her and she is just gorgeous. So that's another leadership hat that he's wearing, and the most important leadership hat of it being a new parent. But Germaine, welcome to Leadership with Sonia. How are you today?
Great, Sonia. Thank you so much for the introduction. That was a wow introduction, as we'd probably say in our business. And yeah, going really well, flying through another month and getting ready for the sprint into end of financial year, and super excited to be here with you today.
Thank you. It's so wonderful to be talking everything leadership. And we were talking about the importance of, especially being a parent, role models. And it is up to us to be role models for our generations of today and tomorrow. And for, I've got a daughter, you've got a daughter now, that it is about how do we step up and be those role models. And if you think about leadership, why is leadership important to you, Germaine? What does it mean to you, leadership?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for me, I start, and it's kind of one of our core values at 8 Squad. We have this core value called absolute dedication to service excellence. And it kind of means two things for us before I get into my answer. And the external is to serve our partners and our customers with excellence, but internally it means to serve one another and to have that servant heart. And for me, leadership starts and ends there. I think if you want to be a leader in any place, business, community, sport, music, etc., I think that servant heart is such a critical aspect of it, because I think that's what connects people, and it's that authenticity when people have that willingness to meet someone where they're at and with that servant heart. I think without that you're just not a leader for me, and that's kind of one of the most critical traits that I think I'm a believer of, what I look for in leaders and what I try to really exhibit as well.
Yeah, servant leadership. There's so many different leadership styles, and it's one that I coach and teach about. We teach a lot in servant leadership because leadership is about serving others, and it is about others, how you help others be more and do more. And when you think about servant leadership, who in your career or life has made a difference to serving you or helping you grow or made a difference to you?
Yeah, I think I'd probably start with my mum and dad. So, they were immigrants from Sri Lanka with a 15-month-old kid, which was me, when they moved to Australia and left, a country that was pretty war-torn at the time, and, left that to come to a country with, the story goes, a couple of suitcases and about $150 in their pocket. And that decision was around giving me an opportunity and a life and an education. And I think I reflect back on that time of, dad working when he first moved here, going to night school, having an hour's sleep, doing it the next day, mum working 3 or 4 jobs, and building a life, but then also subsequently a future, etc. And for me, that was, I think now as you hit your mid to late 30s, the ultimate servant leadership, of serving one another, serving their child at that time, to go, hey, you know what, we'll do what it takes to give our child and our family an opportunity here. And so, yeah, I think for me, the greatest example I can have is my mum and dad. Absolutely.
Wow, they do sound amazing. The things, the things we do, the courage that we we have when it comes to building a new life. I could imagine, gosh, you learnt a lot about courage during that time. And so tell me about your journey. So you came here when you were 15 months old.
Yes.
Your parents showed so much leadership and courage. How did you get to where you are today? Like, what made you get into the world of, now you're the chief people officer of this
Yeah.
incredible tech company. So tell us a little bit about your story.
Absolutely. I think, look, as a Sri Lankan, there's a big community culture for us, and family is massive and kind of the be all and end all. But within that, how you kind of serve one another, but take responsibility as well. And I think being an only child, of my mum and dad, and being around so many uncles and aunties, it was often sort of thrust upon me that, hey, you got to take ownership. Mum and dad aren't home. You got to be able to look after yourself, look after things, and etc. And serve the community. Be there for your cousins, etc. Make sure that you're setting the example. And so, from a really young age, there was this constant reinforcement of the behaviors that you exhibit towards your elders and towards your youngers, the example that you set, for your younger cousins, etc. And the way that you carry yourself, when you're going through your schooling and, sporting, etc. And so I think from a really young age, it was something that was drilled into me by my parents, that sort of behavior and that example that you set. And my dad's big on, if you give your word, you follow through on that. You don't need to sign anything. And so naturally, I think as I evolved through school and playing sports, I was probably lucky enough to be thrust into a lot of leadership roles through my life, whether it was sort of being the cricket captain or house captain at school, etc. And so it just felt like something that evolved and always came naturally, I think, to me. And I think when I look at the examples that really tested it, I've probably had two life examples that I think have been the fire that's probably allowed me to get to where I am. And one of those was, about 7 or 8 years ago, I went through something called GBS, Guillain-Barré, which I was paralyzed from the waist down, and including my arms as well. Essentially just had gone to work that day and, yeah, wasn't feeling well. Later that night, I was in the hospital and, yeah, couldn't move or feel below my waist or my arms, and spent 6 months in hospital as a inpatient, working through rehab, trying to get back to standing and walking again. And, managed to work through that situation. And actually a couple of months after coming out of hospital, I did a 210K bike ride for cancer to raise money. And I think it was a real test of, faith, confidence in yourself when you're getting messages from doctors going, hey, you know what? We don't know what could happen. We definitely think we can get you back to walking, but you may not play sport again. You may not run again. You may not do those things again as a 27-year-old. And I think, when you put through those situations, Sonia, I think you're really tested to your core around what's your belief system, and what are your practices that enable you to navigate through these things physically, emotionally, and mentally, but not just navigate, come out the other end as well, right? And come out the other end with still a belief system that, I'm not going to be limited by this. So that was, for me, one of the big tests. And at 8 Squad, something that Frank could have talked to. This is sort of 18 months into our journey. I was diagnosed with cancer here at 8 Squad, in my journey at 8 Squad. And yeah, went through 6 cycles of chemo and a stem cell transplant. And I'm still on chemo to this day. I'm on my 45th cycle, even though I'm in remission. So, it's something that I've lived with. But I think, what these situations teach you is that the greatest impact you can have is on people, and that's through how you turn up, Sonia, and the example that you set for people through these challenges. Because it's all well and good to be a leader when things are going swimmingly, but when you're really put to the fire, I think that really tests your character and evolves yourself as a leader. And I think, yeah, for me, they've been the tests that I think have led me to where I am today.
Wow. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for sharing those stories. Wow, I'm just in awe of the courage w- what do you think in terms of everything that you have gone through and you're going through today? And yeah, I'm just in awe of you around how brave and courageous you are. What do you think's made a difference to you to stay to stay brave? To
Yeah,
stay, yeah.
I think, I probably come to, I think we all need something that anchors us, Sonia. And, I'm not here to say what that is necessarily, but I think for me, my faith for myself and my wife and my family as a Christian is something that has been a really strong anchor point, I think, through those challenges. And I think through that community around you that rallies around, I think as humans, we're so in need of that connection and relationship with humans. And I think, when you kind of go through history and you look at modern time, I think we kind of miss that community, feel of that village and, really getting around each other as neighbors and, providing food or whatever it is. And I know living in Phillip Island, when I was sick, I had people drop food off at our door for about 9 months, people that I'd never even met in the community. And that was pretty touching. And so I think, Sonia, for me, I come back A, to that faith. I think B, something that we've developed at 8 Squad, and it would have been fantastic to have Frank here talk to it, but we have our adaptive human framework program. And
Mm,
it's something that we leverage from Frank's neurophysics business that he used to run in Sydney. And so he used to run this for patients that have come out of, PTSD from accidents, etc., Sonia. And what we've really focused on is building this system, building this program across 3 systems: knowledge, embodiment, and belief. And I think, especially going through this cancer journey, being able to have, adaptive human framework program and building that knowledge of how does nutrition, how does posture, how does movement, how does sleep, how do these different foundational systems impact me? And what can I test as I'm going through this most severe treatment that's supporting me to not just cope with the treatment, but still turn up to work, and I still worked full time while I was going through the chemo. And I think for me, that adaptive human framework program was a really critical part in developing my ability to build practices that sustained me, Sonia, through that, and still sustain me
mm.
as I'm going through a lighter dose of chemo now. So yeah, I think I probably balance between my faith component and that program that we've developed in this business.
Where would we find out more about that? That actually sounds incredible. Where is that on your website?
Yeah, so look, we have a little bit of detail on the website, but it is something that we are now kind of releasing to customers. We're actually sort of in conversation with Salesforce around potentially releasing it to their staff as well now as a development program. And so if anyone is interested, please come and have a chat to us. We'd love to take you through kind of what we've developed here as a program. It's very much focused on how we develop high performance, but how we do that sustainably, Sonia, because I think the problem that Frank and I think really kind of recognized before we launched 8 Squad is, and I think Sonia, you're super aware of this, having come from, a similar background, is there is a problem that exists in corporate, and that problem is human erosion. And I think a lot of organizations putting band-aids on that problem at the moment. And it may be, hey, you know what, let's invest in our yoga programs, or let's get some external companies in to run some sessions or activities. But we have this demand on the human that's greater than it ever has been. Because if we think about our parents or our grandparents, Sonia, they went to work, they checked out at 5 o'clock, they clocked in, they clocked out. They didn't have a laptop, they didn't have mobile phones bugging them at home. There wasn't emails coming through to them. There's no social media. And so there was this real disconnect between work and family time. But now, as I think professional workers in corporate, the demand on us is incessant, where we're constantly connected to technology. And so, when you look at some of the health problems that we're facing record levels of mental health, we're facing record levels of physical health issues. And so I think as organizations, we've got to recognize that we hold people in our businesses 5 days a week, and we have a responsibility to make sure that they're educated around what they're
Mm,
doing and how that's impacting them, not just in work, Sonia, but more importantly as humans. And I don't think we can disconnect the two anymore, right? And so that for us is why this program is so critical, because we do believe we've got a responsibility to our people, not just as professionals and employees at 8 Squad.
Wow. Okay. Yes. So I need to find out more about this because it does sound incredible. Because, yeah, I think, even though how we advance with technology, it's also, with everything, there's two sides to everything. There's also the not so great side of that we are so now connected to technology that I think as well it's hindered our ability to connect. It's and I talk about this a lot, courage and community is, I think, and it was interesting. I was talking, I can't remember, it was an amazing person a few weeks ago around what do you think is the biggest gap for leaders or people today? And we were talking mostly around that leadership space, around the ability for us to truly connect with one another. We've lost that ability to truly connect and listen and serve each other. And I think we need to come back to that. We need to, and how do we use technology to really enhance that human connection and that human servant leadership? And when you and I were talking offline about the leadership awards, it was about showcasing greater role models and getting people connecting and sharing and helping and serving each other. So yeah, I'm sure anyone listening or watching this would love to know more about what you're doing there at 8 Squad, because it does sound incredible. And so for me, and there's a couple of questions from that I want to ask, but first of all, I do want to ask, tell me more about 8 Squad, and then also what do you think makes a great leader? But tell me a little bit more about 8 Squad.
Yeah. So I think I might, bring us back to kind of the origins of how this thing kicked off, right? And, Sonia, I remember Frank reaching out to me going, "Hey, G, I'm about to launch another business, and we're gonna take over this Salesforce partner called Clouding Around, and we're gonna rebrand it, etc." And we met in Melbourne, and I remember it really clearly because I was about to get married 2 weeks later, and he said, "G, we worked together at Blue Wolf, and we helped scale that business, and obviously got acquired into IBM, and you stayed on, and we learned a lot of lessons, right?" And I think for us, Sonia, there was kind of a couple things that when we wanted to launch 8 Squad that were really critical to us. And I think I've talked to one, which is, hey, there's this problem, human erosion, how we're going to tackle that, right? But there was a second, which was, as companies scale, Sonia, the traditional kind of systems in these organizations are just the linear management systems, right? That have their line managers, and they have their kind of governors that are these central decision makers, right? And Frank and I were like, we would observe, and I think especially, my time in IBM, how employees would come up to these line managers, Sonia, and they go, "Hey, Sonia, I've got this idea, and I think it can solve this problem." And you go, "Hey, thanks so much, Germaine. Let me go to my manager." And you'd go to your manager, you'd go to their manager, and then finally they get to this central governor, this decision maker who'd make the decision, and it would filter all the way back down. And there's a few components of this that for Frank and I, we were like, we have to shift this. One was, being a technology company, time and speed. We cannot afford the time of that process to be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or a couple months. We were like, it takes too long. And the impact of that is how that then disengages and disempowers your employees from impacting and influencing your business. The second was, as intelligent, and as gifted as these central governors, these decisions may be, Sonia, they're going to be asked to make decisions on areas of the business that aren't their expertise. And so that was kind of a secondary impact for us that we really recognized. And so we decided to pursue this model and framework called holacracy. It's kind of not commonly known, in the country. There's probably only a handful of businesses that are using it in Australia. But what it kind of works on is this idea of decentralized decision-making through circles, Sonia. And the idea is that circles have very clear domains of authority. So if we think about a people circle, for example, you'd have domains of authority around recruitment, visas, HR policies, etc. And that circle then would have, a circle lead who gets given ultimate decision-making over those domains that sit there. And then there's a bunch of people who perform roles. So while you might have a HR consultant or a people and culture consultant as a job title, Sonia, there's about 20 different roles within that job title.
Yeah.
And so what Holacracy does is it actually captures those granular level roles and accountabilities. And so every person in the business will hold multiple roles, but what it allows is as the business scales, you can continue to create circles that serve your business, and each circle will have its designated circle lead who's given authority and decision making over that circle. And so the title CEO or CPO, they don't exist in Holacracy. And so I have no authority to overrule any other circle and the decision making process they have. And so it really decentralizes that decision making. But the beauty of it is that every person has a role in a circle. And so every person has the ability to bring up an item, attention, whatever it is, and see that actioned in the meeting into a new policy, into a new role, into a new accountability. And so it really kind of empowers all of our people at all levels of our organization, allows for that speed of decision making, but more importantly, allows for clarity around who owns what and who's accountable for what. So that when you are having challenges as a business, you can go, okay, we're having a challenge here. This is the accountability we need to support. And so this is a really important decision for us that we pursued as a business, and something that we've rolled out over the last kind of 5 years and gone through iterations, Sonia. And I think I'm pretty proud to say over the last 18 months, I think we've really hit our rhythm, with Holacracy in this business. So, at our core, we're a Salesforce implementation partner, a consulting partner. We're almost 100 people now across the country. We were about 15 people when we started and took over the clouding around business. And so it's been a wonderful journey, through the challenges of COVID. And as you talked about, what that means for businesses. But what we do think we do really differently are A, Holacracy, this internal governance framework, and B, our adaptive human framework, which is our responsibility to our people.
So who would be your ideal clients? Like who are those people that really like, that you love working with and love what you do?
Yeah, I think, for us, of course, our core business is to provide technology solutions through Salesforce, right? And, we look for customers that don't just kind of necessarily want out of the box solutions and someone to roll that out, but want a partner to kind of be, as cliche as it sounds, the truest example of that word, a partner, Sonia, kind of a part of their business, right? And someone that's going to sit with them and go, hey, I understand we're doing this as a project, but hey, what I'm noticing is some of the pain that you're feeling and some of the business outcomes that you're trying to drive. Here's some advice for you as a business and what may help with that. But while that's absolutely that core business, I think our evolution, and this is part of our next step with our academy and our adaptive human framework, is how do we support you as a business around your values and how those values are coming out into your business and impacting your culture, how those are impacting the way you hire and bring in talent that really serves what you're trying to create as a business. And this is kind of the next step that we're looking for, Sonia, with our customers, is how can we support them as organizations through not just technology, but through people as well, and really help them develop their learning and development programs and, their people and culture programs and processes, etc. And I think that's the step that we're really keen to take, because we've seen the benefits of what we do with our people. And for us now, we want to take that out to our customers as well.
Well, it does sound incredible. So if there's anything we can do to help, or if anyone is listening and watching that would love to know more, please reach out to Germaine and Frank and the team at 8 Squad, because some of the things that you are helping around solutions and helping organizations and humans be better and do better sounds incredible. And I mean, when you think about leadership, like when you think about, I know we've spoken a lot about leadership in your journey and what you do at 8 Squad. What do you think today? What do you think makes a great leader today?
Yeah, it's, I think there's a combination of traits, Sonia, I think for me, that I look for in leaders, right? And I think we talked a little bit about that servant heart mentality. I think a leader that's, I think, also gone through the fire and failed and taken ownership for that failure. I think someone who really take that extreme ownership and accountability for mistakes, I think that's so critical because at our core, Sonia, we're all humans. And I think, while we have certain people that we look up to, etc., as great as you may be as a human, we're all going to make mistakes and we're all going to make errors, and I think people that can take that ownership and can say, yeah, you know what, I've got to put my hand up here. I could have done better. I made this mistake, but I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to turn that around. I'm going to make sure I don't do that again. I think that's so important, to not be that victim, etc., and to go, yeah, you know what, this is an opportunity to get better, right? And I love that trait in leaders, and I think it's something that I look for, and I think it's so critical in the modern age because we work at such a pace, Sonia, that you are going to make mistakes, and you're not going to be perfect 100% of the time. And if you want to, I think, have your people trust in you, for me, when you can go to them, hey, I'm taking this on, team. It's my, it's my ownership. It's my fault. It's my responsibility. That's what builds that trust and connection, I think, with your team. So that for me is a big trait. I think that openness to growth mentality, and, Frank talks about this often, that as soon as you think you've mastered it, you've probably lost the battle as a leader. Because I don't think you ever master the challenge as a leader. I think you're constantly learning and evolving. And so having that growth mentality and that openness to, I've gone about it this way, but you make an interesting point. Let's debate that. Let's unpack that, right? Can there be pivots here? And so I think that growth mentality for me as well is critical. And I think more than ever, and you made this point, Sonia, around we're at this extreme now where people are either completely working from home or hybrid working from home, etc. And so your ability to impact people as humans, and what I mean by that is have knowledge of, hey, you know what, I've got this individual who's struggling. What are the signals that are helping me understand what this person's going through and what support they need? And I think that ability to, as leaders now, to connect to human development, and is more critical than it ever has been, right? Around, hey, you know what, actually, this person is starting to get to a higher level of stress. What's leading to that, right? Etc. Not over being able to identify that, but then being able to wrap into what support frameworks and programs can I equip this person with, right? Is more critical than ever, because I think, like we talked about, Sonia, we can't separate people and professional anymore because they are blending in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is about I use the word, and I wrote a blog about, or a newsletter about it a few weeks ago, and it got a lot of comments around leadership and love. And it was based on a conversation I had with this incredible CPO who was talking to me about her views on leadership. We had coffee, and it was so wonderful to connect with her. She's CPO of a very, very big global company, and she talked about she uses love all the time. And she said the partners see her coming and they go, oh no, don't use this love stuff with me. And she's like, no, we're now bringing our whole selves to work. It's not just, we humans need love. It doesn't mean like, not loving that, loving a caring, like I care for you. I care for you as a whole, and I love you as a whole, not romantic. You know what I mean? Like I really care for you. I love you as a person. And hey, like children, sometimes our children, we go, at the moment, I don't particularly like you at the moment. I'm always going to love you. But that's like, but the thing is, we've got to care for the people around us. And it is about, I think, more than ever before. And I think our future generations want that. They're looking for that. And so I'm going to ask you the big question, because I love what you think makes a great leader. Yep. What's been a mistake you have made? Like, what's been a mistake you have made? Because I do believe in that. I believe that you have to be able to show, be vulnerable and make mistakes that you've learned something from. Are you willing to share?
Yeah, no, thank you, Sonia. I think, honestly, I think I probably alluded to it, a little bit, but I'll probably talk to the early days of 8 Squad, right? And when we decided to pursue holacracy, I think like a lot of leaders, you look at these frameworks, these systems, these programs, and you go, I can do that better, right?
Yeah.
And so we looked at it, and we kind of built our hybrid model of holacracy initially as kind of our phase 1 launch in this business, Sonia. And we pursued what we called squads at the time, and we kind of structured it a bit differently. And it worked to a certain point. It kind of got us from the 15 people up to sort of 25, 30, 35, and then we started to get to 40, and we're like, oh man, this thing, it's really breaking, right? And
Yeah.
it was a really humbling experience to go, you know what, sometimes you don't know better and you can't do it better than these companies that have created these frameworks and these programs. And it was a really humbling experience. And, we had to come back and go, you know what, like, got to put a hand up. No, we didn't know better. We got it wrong. Like, because it actually wasn't the way we had kind of adjusted it. It wasn't going to help us scale into the 60,
Yeah.
80 people. And so, we went back to Holacracy 1 and we said, no, guys, we're all in. We're doing this 110%. The way that it was built, the way that it was meant. You guys have put a ton of time and effort into this. And we had them come out and support us with the rollout, and we used Glassfrog as their program, etc. And that for me was a really, it was a failure. Like, there's no two ways around it, because the original intent was, hey, this is going to help us scale to 100. It only helped us scale to 35, 40 before it started cracking. And so that for me was a learn around, hey, you know what? Sometimes when you think that you can do something better, just take that moment to actually check your ego a little bit and go, actually, hold on. These people here, they've been doing it for about 10 or 15 years. Maybe just take a little bit of extra time with them, right? To understand. So yeah, I think for me in this journey, that was a really big learn. The second one for me, and I don't know if it's a failure, but it definitely has been a big learn, Sonia. And, I think you and I could probably spend a lot of time talking about this, but going through my career, there's this hot topic of culture, and I think it comes up so much, in organizations and in podcasts. And with culture, there's this other word, diversity, that comes up, and they seem to come up a lot, right? And I've had this real evolution where I think, in previous businesses, I was like, yeah, culture's so important, and we defined it, and we knew what it was in our business, and we knew the people that it needed to look like and fit into that culture, right? But I think coming to Aid Squad, and it's been a real pivot for me, Sonia, and a real learn, is that actually culture for us, we landed in this spot that should actually never be defined, because we never want to exclude people based on culture. And the reason that we say that, Sonia, is that we have our values, and yes, we will exclude people on our values, but we will never exclude on culture, because true diversity means that actually, if I'm interviewing someone, Sonia, I might not necessarily connect with them or have that vibe or that personality, bouncing around, but it doesn't mean that person doesn't have value for your business, because what you got to come to is, does this person have skills that are valuable for the role that we're looking for? Do they align to the values? And that's all you need to tick off, because then as each person comes in, and if we think of culture as this big melting pot, each person comes in, that culture pot should continually evolve and change. And for me, that's true diversity then, because you got a bunch of people that are going to have very different thought processes, experiences, skills. And that's going to cause that tension rub, because they don't necessarily vibe with each other. But that's diversity in your business. And that's where you're going to get creativity and innovation in your business, right? Is through that tension rub. Because then what you're still getting people to adhere to is values. Guys, we still, are we before me. We're still chasing personal mastery. We're still serving one another, right? But it's okay to debate and to have this tension rub. And I think that's been another really big learn for me in my people journey, Sonia, is how to look at culture and diversity a little bit differently. And I think it's a common misconception out there that, oh yeah, we've got this culture and it looks like this, but actually if you're saying that people need to fit this, then you don't have diversity, Sonia, anymore, right? Yeah. They're kind of just this little bucket, right, of traits. So yeah, that for me has been a big evolution and learn as well.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, I'm a big one around values alignment, which I'll talk to you about another time offline, about how passionate I am around that, around hiring people. Yeah, definitely for skills and attitude and values alignment. But sometimes it's great. I remember one of my greatest hires, or someone that I brought on board, a number of years ago, she didn't tick all the boxes of what I needed with the skills, but she had this values alignment to Leadership HQ and this great attitude. And I thought, you know what, I could teach her. Like, she ticks a lot of the boxes, but you know what, her values alignment means a lot more, and she's ended up being an absolute star. So
Yeah.
it's I love those learnings. So I could talk to you forever about so many things, but I would love to know just a couple of final things.
Yes.
So thank you for you were showing me a picture of your darling daughter. If there was like one piece of advice like you would give her as she's growing up to be, whoever she's going to be one day, right? Or whoever she's going to stand for, or who she is, what's that piece of advice that you would love her to hold on to from her dad when it comes to
Yeah.
leadership?
Yeah. Great question. You almost start with like, don't listen to dad because he makes a lot of mistakes. But you know, I think, look, I loved my piece from my dad around your word is your bond. And I think it's something, that we've gotten to this generation of things need to be signed and, contracts and all that sort of stuff to hold us. But I kind of love that, Sonia, from my dad. And it's
Mm,
something I really tried to adhere to is, you know what, like you give your word, you follow through on it, and you make sure that you execute against what you said you will do. And that, I think that's a massive one for me. And I think the one that I've probably learned, and I think it's been exacerbated by the health challenges, is that the greatest impact you can have is with people and how you make them feel. And so,
yeah.
I think that for me is a golden piece of, people don't remember so much what you do and, the things that you've done for them. They remember how you made them feel, and I think the memories that you create with them. And I think that would be probably the thing that I pass on to Gabriella.
I love that. I love that. It is about, I actually put a post about that last week, actually, about people don't remember what you said or did. They remember how you made them feel. And it was around poor leadership. But it was interesting. I was, not that I'm on social media a lot, but I was on Instagram and I was watching this video, these two different scenes of a father sitting on a couch. And one was with this baby daughter that you could tell it was very young, was trying to walk and was walking into a room and sees daddy and is like lights up, and
Yeah,
daddy's on the phone and daddy's not noticing the daughter, and the daughter's like coming up going, give me some attention, the father's scrolling, versus
yeah,
daddy putting the phone down and daughter coming in and daddy being like, oh my God, like, and giving her lots of cuddles.
yeah.
And the difference between, what do you think the difference of how that child feels like, does that make sense, that, oh, daddy's giving me all
Present.
this attention.
Yeah,
Yeah, the present, right? Like being
yeah,
present. And I think that is definitely been a learning for me and my being a parent and being a leader, is that when you're actually, whether it's your daughter or or even someone at work, that they're going to remember how you made them feel. Are you
yeah,
caring and listening and showing that connection and love? Or are you, yep, on your phone, yep, just hurry up. Like,
yeah.
like that being present is the greatest gift. So if you can, I think that's a great point,
Huge.
Germaine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think even more so in business now, Sonia, right? Like, because we are virtual so much of the time. And so you're getting, whether you've got Slack or another direct messaging platform, or you've got notifications coming to
Yeah.
the top right-hand corner of your screen and emails coming through, your phone going off. When you are on video calls, staying present with the people on that call, it's huge, right? For your people to feel like, oh my goodness, this person's respecting my time, and
Mm.
here for me, to your point, to listen, to what I've got to say, etc., and not distracted doing other work or responding to other messages, etc. So I love that, Sonia. I think it's great.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, thank you. Everything you've said today is so wonderful. I could talk to you for hours, but it's so wonderful to see the incredible work you're doing and seeing your incredible journey, your courage. You're an inspiration to me, and I know lots of people that are listening and watching. And also, congratulations for being finalists in our Outstanding Leadership Awards, because I can see in spades that you are such an incredible organization and incredible leaders within your organization. So thank you for being wonderful role models. And before we sign off, and thank you everyone for listening, is there anything else that you'd love to say finally to everyone listening today, to your wisdom and guidance?
Oh, thank you, Sonia. I think, look, thank you for, giving us the privilege and honor to have a voice out there with you. And I think thank you for the work that you're doing and the awards that you're creating. I know we talked about this before we launched, but, we really loved the uniqueness of the awards you're creating. And, for us, it was the first time as a people-based team we decided to pursue awards because of the uniqueness of them. Yes, most courageous organization and team, and, the descriptors in there of how you're representing your values and kindness. And that meant a lot to us as a business because it's what means a lot to us in this business. So we think you're doing a fabulous job with what you're trying to represent out there. And so we'd really encourage people, get around this, support Sonia and the team at Leadership HQ. And we're looking forward to a wonderful night of getting to meet plenty of people up in Sydney in a couple of weeks.
Yes, we are as well. And it's just wonderful. As I mentioned, the reason why we put this platform is to celebrate and showcase and lift great role models and leaders and organizations so our generations of today and tomorrow have hope and have these great role models, because we're not getting them on our social media feeds or through news. And if we have this platform where we're able to showcase, great leaders like yourself, and it's wonderful to see you as finalists. And I can't wait, and we can't wait to see how your journey keeps moving forward. And if there's anything we can do to help you as well, please let us know, because we'll do anything to help someone else succeed. So thank you so much for being on the podcast and live today. And yeah, amazing to talk to you.
Thank you, Sonia. Really appreciate it. And yeah, a little shout out to our 8 Squad team, because we're not here without them. So they're the true heroes that make this happen. So yeah, thank you for having us. Thank you for having me, Sonia.
Anytime. You're more than welcome to come on another live or podcast again. But yes, shout out to 8 Squad, and make sure you check out their work at 8 Squad. So if they were to contact you, we can contact you through obviously LinkedIn, but also your website, which is...
Yeah, so our website, you can jump on Google, just type in 8 Squad. But if you want the direct link, I'm actually just typing it in myself now to get you the direct link.
Okay, great.
But it's 8squad.com.au. So it's the number 8 and squad.com.au.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I'll make sure I repost that as well. And thank you again, Germaine. And always, everybody, stay kind and stay courageous. Thank you.
Thanks, Sonia.
Thanks so much for listening to the podcast Leadership with Sonia. Find out more about Sonia, her work, and more podcasts at soniamcdonald.com.au, and reach out to her and her fabulous team to learn more.